So why would they pay more for something that they already have that is already convenient, that they believe that the taste was going to be less than optimal and more expensive? So now we went from being convenient, taking 5 minutes, to taking zero. And I got to tell you that it is even more emotional and difficult than buying a car. You can only get to human centricity when you get to the level of compassion.
Welcome back to Innovation Impossible. In each episode of this podcast, we dive deep into the world of product innovation, bringing you insightful conversations with industry leaders behind some of the coolest products in fields as diverse as smart devices, crypto, fashion, logistics, pharmaceuticals, and many more. Our guests share their processes, challenges, and triumphs in creating groundbreaking products. From who to hire to the systems they create at enterprise companies, from research methodology to marketing, from innovation frameworks to the challenges they faced and how they overcame them. Whether you're a serial entrepreneur working at an enterprise company on an insights or innovation team, you're a product designer, or you just love product design and innovation, Innovation Impossible offers practical lessons and inspiration to help you navigate your own product development journey. On today's episode of Innovation Impossible, we're joined by the amazing Jorge Calvachi, Director of Insights at La-Z-Boy. Jorge has been pushing organizations to shift from consumer-centric to human-centric strategies for over 20 years. He's helped deliver global consumer insights to top brands including Amway, Clorox, General Mills, and Kraft Foods, and has introduced over 40 brands globally. He's also consulted for brands such as P&G, Unilever, Nissan, and even the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I'm personally really excited to discover and share with you Jorge's approach in transforming and building consumer insights functions, competitive intelligence, and innovation. Jorge, welcome to Innovation Impossible.
Thank you very much. What a great introduction. So I think this is going to be a fantastic conversation.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And to kick it off, I'd like to go back to the start. I know you worked at Kraft Foods and you were on the team that developed Easy Mac. I'm curious, what's the story there? What kind of challenges did you face when moving Easy Mac from concept to shelf? And how did you navigate these to create a product that resonated so well with the market?
Wow, you're jumping right into one of the best stories that I usually uh, share with people who ask me, "What are you proud about?" What is very interesting, this is in the first years of my career at Kraft. So, what happened that in the early 2000s, there was there were like about two or three initiatives that every single marketer had to work on. One of those was convenience. And since I was at, my brand was Kraft macaroni and cheese, we needed to actually make Kraft macaroni and cheese more convenient. So now this is very, very interesting because how can you make Kraft macaroni and cheese more convenient? I mean, consumers were telling us, you boil the water, you rinse it, you put the pasta, you rinse it, you add the cheese, and you're done. 5 minutes.
Already
So
convenient.
it's totally, 100% convenient, right? So then the team came up with this microwavable mac and cheese. And we were super excited about it. But here's what happened. So the challenges, number one, moms were already telling us the mac and cheese is already convenient. Okay. The other one, as soon as you said microwavable, the perception of taste went south, right?
Yeah.
And then it was going to be a little bit more expensive. So why would they pay more for something that they already have that is already convenient, that they believe that the taste was going to be less than optimal and more expensive? There was, it was like, oh my God, how are we going to win this battle, right? But what is very interesting is that we were doing blind testing with this product. And almost every single time on a blinded test, consumer would prefer the microwavable mac and cheese But as soon as you told them, oh, this was made in the microwave, they will say, no, you're lying to me. No, that is not true. Let me try this again. Right?
And the perception changes.
Totally, right? So I got to tell you, this initiative, this project had more lives than a cat, because it was almost killed and then it would come back. And in the last round of focus groups, we put the product in front of consumers, in this case, moms, and we hear the typical negative stuff. But one mom said, "So you're telling me that you just add some water in this cup and then you microwave this for about a minute?" And I say, "Yeah." And then she said the famous words that change everything. She said, "So basically, my kids can make it themselves." And at that moment, we had goosebumps, right? Because that was it. It wasn't really talking about, we didn't need to talk about the product and how tasty it was and try to convince consumers to change the perception. It was about what moms were trying to do with the young kids, which was to teach them about self confidence, empower them to cook for themselves, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
also, they said, you know what? Um, if my kid can make it himself, they can have a warm snack, and that was fantastic. So now we went from being convenient, taking 5 minutes, to taking zero minutes, right? In in delivering this sense of accomplishment to the kids, and they were happy. The kids were like excited. 11, 12-year old making mac and cheese themselves, one of their favorite dishes, right? So that is what happened. We introduced the product, and the first couple of years, it was, I think it made like about $600 million.
So it's the added convenience that the parent doesn't need to do anything, and also that you're empowering the child.
So what was very interesting in this case is that, think about it, we tap into what moms always want to achieve with the kids, right? Is to create that feeling of accomplishment, teach them self confidence. And that is a human truth of all moms, right? And it is not really about the product that much. The product, of course, has to deliver.
It's the emotional benefit of
It
the.
is exactly that, right?
Okay, and moving on to your brand now, Lazy Boy. You're playing this critical role in reshaping Lazy Boy's image. It's Lazy Boy is quite an old brand, no? So how do you approach this brand repositioning for this legacy brand, and you make it relevant to younger consumers while respecting this decades old legacy, the heritage that it has?
Yeah. No, this is, I gotta say, this is one of the most exciting assignments and roles that I have had. And every single assignment in my professional life has been either building insights function, transforming them, or completely, expanding globally. But this one is so unique. It's so different. Most of my background has been in CPG, and now I am in the furniture, right, industry. But for me, when I look at Lazy Boy, as you mentioned, we're almost 100 years old. We're an iconic brand, right? Everybody, when you see a recliner, you think of Lazy Boy. You say Lazy Boy, the people think of recliners. But at the same time, there is this grandpa's chair perception, right? And and we have been very successful being a product-led company. We have also been very successful because it has been a sales driven company. And what happened is that in the last 5, 6 years, the leadership changed at Lazy Boy, and they came from CPG companies. And in order to grow, you have to understand the consumer. So that is where actually I come in, right? They develop what is called the century vision, something that we want to achieve when we turn 100 years old. So the first thing that we did is we needed to understand the challenges, right? Number one is, when was the last time that you thought of Lazy Boy without talking to me? I mean, right? It's like it is not a brand that comes to your mind often, right? Unless you are looking for a recliner. And by the way, those are products that you don't buy every other week, right? So every 20, 30 years, if you buy a Lazy Boy, it lasts that long.
Unlike the CPG brands that you worked at before, no? Yeah.
We are like um, the minivan of recliners, meaning that you don't think of us or you don't purchase us unless you need it, right? So we needed to actually change all of that. And what we needed to do is reposition Lazy Boy from being a dormant brand with positive memories, right? To be an active, interesting, and distinctive brand in today's world, right? So, in order to do that, we needed to do research, right? We first started with understanding who's buying us and why. And we did all the research, and like in terms of what does comfort, which is what we deliver, mean to consumers outside the physical comfort. So we truly needed to understand emotionally what comfort means. Remember, we're trying to get to that human truth, right? So so we got to a point that we understood what we deliver, the benefit, emotional benefit to consumers. Um, and that was, has to do with me time. It has to do with we time, the people that live in the house and share memories. It has to do with us time, which is also, about not only your family, but your friends and neighbors that come visit you when you entertain. And that provides some satisfaction, some emotional benefits for consumers. So how do we interject there? So that was critical. So we needed to first develop some communication, a campaign, and this campaign needed to take a stand. Like society really expects a lot of you, right? Is There's a lot happening in today's world, and we needed to actually say, hey, relax, rest. It's tough out there. So here's, Lazy Boy can help you with that. Lazy Boy needed to be an advocate to base, also stand up for your right to sit down. So we needed to use that type of language. And basically, the empowering language that we needed to use to reclaim the word lazy and reposition it in a positive way. Remember, lazy, negative connotation, but also is part of our name, a name that means a lot to a lot of people. So we needed to do a lot of this changing perceptions of what lazy means. And with that, the campaign Long Live the Lazy was born, which is, it is all about, you have worked hard. You're parenting 24/7, right? You deserve a lazy moment
You've
to
earned the
rest,
right.
recharge, right? Again, that is a human truth. Everybody does. We don't talk about I'm gonna take a lazy moment, but the message that we convey is all about that. And that is 100%, 100% connected to our brand, right? Lazy moment with Lazy Boy.
That's amazing. And I wonder, so again, connecting it to the difference between the CPG market, I imagine it's much easier to collect insights there because there's a lot more customers making more purchases daily, and you can kind of get that feedback much faster. How did you kind of accelerate that process at Lazy Boy? What did the actual practical gathering insights, focus groups, surveys, what did that look like?
Yeah. Yeah. No, actually, you hit the nail on the heading. And one of my biggest challenges, we don't have sales data as CPG has. We don't have all these tools, capabilities as CPG does. So we had to be super creative. But we had to actually step back. And one of the biggest challenges that any organization has when they are building a new insights function from the ground up, because an insights function never existed at Lazy Boy before, was really truly understand the consumer, um, is really just understanding how people make decisions. unlocking unlocking growth for each functional leader, right? So you understand the culture, understand how everything comes together, and in like a lot of big organizations, they are silos, right? But there's one thing that I have a key, and that key is insights, is knowledge. Knowledge can bring everybody together, particularly if it is a human truth, right? So um, I'm gonna have to say I'm gonna go back. What was the exactly the question?
How did the collection of insights work at Lazy Boy? You're saying you brought this idea of insights to Lazy Boy, and I'm kind of wondering how, say, like new technologies or what these practical steps to gathering these insights from these customers who might only make that purchase once in 20 years. What does that look like?
Yeah. So one of the first things that I did was bringing a brand health tracker um, in house. It is leading edge technology where we have a pulse of the consumer, and you know we're collecting that data 24/7, collecting that data for us, our competitors, and this is something that uses, of course, AI. Now we cannot have a conversation without mentioning AI. And this is, like before, it used to take about a week, 2 weeks to do any type of a analysis. That is when I joined Lazy Boy. By changing all of this, I can have any answer um, that we collect and do analysis within a couple of minutes. So we collect that information is always, like I said, live. We also do deep dives. The first thing that we did is build a foundational and a strategic um, knowledge base. So we conducted segmentations. We identify our core consumer, but we also identify our growth target for the next 100 years. We conducted jobs to be done to drive innovation. We conducted also the consumer journey study that help us how the different phases within the journey, purchase journey, they are connected and what the expectations are of each phase. I just gotta say that when you buy something in CPG, the journey is simple, right? You think about it, your kids like it, you put it in the grocery list, you go to the store, you grab it, and that's it. When you buy furniture, I just gotta say that furniture purchasing is very emotional. And I didn't realize how emotional it was, but now it makes a lot of sense. And I got to tell you that it is even more emotional and difficult than buying a car. And and when you buy a car, let's say you like the color red, you want a red car, right? You can go and buy a red car and park it in the garage, and nobody will complain about the color because you like it, right? But when you're buying furniture and you want a red sofa, is it going too much with everything else that you have in the house? Is your spouse going to let you buy a red couch or a red recliner, right? So
Yeah.
you have to think about the size. Does it fit through the door? How you are going to be spending time? You're going to spend a lot of time sitting on that recliner, watching television, Netflix, football games. How comfortable it is.
You have to get rid of the old furniture as well, no? And that's like you have an emotional attachment to that.
Oh yeah. That is a different story as well, right? Especially if they are replacing a lazy boy that they have had for 20 years, right? There is, like you mentioned, an emotional connection to that recliner. And what I have found is that people don't like to get rid of those recliners. They actually pass it down
Yeah.
to the older generation, right?
We had a second living room in the attic, and I remember like the process for me as a kid was new couch downstairs, old couch gets moved upstairs, and then eventually that old couch gets moved somewhere else. I never knew where they went. Yeah.
Right, right, exactly. And see, one of the things that is happening in the furniture industry as well is that um, the the quality of some of these products is has gone down significantly. But it works for the first, I would say, couple of years. But then after that, there are problems, right? But you don't know what problems you're going to have. You're just happy that you got a recliner, but they will break down. So a lot of people learn that lesson. And when they're back to purchase a recliner, that is when they actually trust Lazy Boy. We have been here almost 100 years, right? So so that is something that we talk about, how important the quality of our product is, but most importantly, we talk about the emotional benefits of a recliner.
And I imagine this isn't the first time like the brand has experienced this rejuvenation. This was before your time, but I'm wondering if you have any insights into like my first experience, the first time I heard about Lazy Boy was when I was probably around 10 watching Friends. And they bought these two young guys living in their apartment. They got two Lazy Boys. I imagine that was a shift in perception as well. If this was a older brand, meant like there was the association with grandparents and things like that. All of a sudden, you have two young guys in New York, and they've chosen to buy Lazy Boy. I wonder if that was brand placement.
Yeah, so I was not at that time a lazy boy. I don't have visibility how that helped the business, but I got to say that that I do know that Lazy Boy work with the cast of Friends, and each one developed their own chair and recliner.
Wow,
Yeah, and they are still. We have them. We have the models, and they were built for all of the Friends cast. Yeah.
that's great. And so you've mentioned this idea of human-centric insights, and I wonder, like, how would you differentiate? How do you define that term in compared to consumer-centric? What's this difference, and how has it helped you shape these major brands that you've worked with?
Yeah. So um, I always talk about human centricity. And the reason that I do that is because I have done research all over the world, right? And my job has always been to truly understand people in order to develop or communicate a product benefit. That has always been my goal. But stepping back more into what truly means for me, um, compassion, really. I'm going to go into, you can only get to human centricity when you get to the level of compassion. And to get to that level, there are different steps. The first step is sympathy. Sympathy is when something happens to someone that you know, and you basically say, "Oh, that's terrible that that happened to you." Then the next level is empathy. Then and here, um, this is when you actually say, "I'm sorry that that happened to you. Something similar happened to me, and I understand where you're coming from." And compassion is the next level over empathy. And compassion says, I'm sorry that that happened to you. I understand where you're coming from, and I'm going to help you out. I know what will make you feel better. So compassion is action driven, right? Empathy is a step to get us there. So to bring it down to what means in consumer insights, when we are delivering a report and we are telling a story about our findings, and we talk about pain points, we talk about satisfiers, that at that moment we're creating empathy, but there is no action. So once you take those learnings and you say, all right, we're going to conduct a work session to solve those consumer needs, that is when you move to compassion. So sympathy acknowledges an event, positive or negative. Empathy is all about creating a shared feeling, and compassion is basically action driven. So, you have here insights to action. This is how you do it. Insights can
Yeah, that's
only
deep.
be useful if, yeah, you can act on them, right? So, if you get to compassion and everything that we have been talking about, right, with Kraft Easy Mac, right? It was understanding, oh, this is what moms, want to accomplish. And this is how we can help. Because that is what she wanted to accomplish, right? We're making it easier for her now to do that. So when you're talking about Lazy Boy, how compassion means, Compassion is all about saying, hey, I know that life is difficult. I know that interest rates are high. I know that you're looking for a new home. I know that your job is hard. I know that you're parenting 24/7. You deserve a lazy moment,
Yeah, you earned it.
right? And by the way, here's you should do this better when you put your feet out and recline back, right? So this is this is a human truth. This l- lazy moment that you deserve, we have tested this internationally, and even in Germany, they love it. They go, "Oh my God, this is so me. This is so true," right? And in today's world, right, you need to connect with consumers at that level with your brand. The most powerful words that you can hear from human to human is "you see me," which means you understand me, right? Can you imagine hearing this from consumers saying that about your brand, saying, "Wow, you see me"? And the tests that we have conducted about long live the lazy moments, right? People playing back, "Oh my God, lazy boy, you see me. This is what I need. This is what I do. I work super hard. I need this lazy boy," right? Um, yes, so it is powerful.
This episode is brought to you by Prelaunch.com, the consumer and product validation platform. Why trust your innovation to market research dinosaurs who still rely on professional panelists to gather insights that you'll probably never use? When you pay your respondents to participate, their only incentive is to get through it fast and get paid. This practice has led to the growth of professional respondents, low-quality responses, and even bots. Instead, on Prelaunch.com, your future customers pay you before sharing their insights. Regular users discover your product via ads while browsing the internet, and if they actually want to buy it, they can place a small deposit to reserve it. This confirmation of purchase intent changes everything. Now, instead of straight lining through the answers in order to get paid, they're actually invested in your product development process. Their only goal is to co-create a better product for themselves. Prelaunch.com lets you test everything from pricing to product features, business models, audiences, messaging, positioning, and everything in between. Discover how you can gather bulletproof insights from your ready-to-buy customers on Prelaunch.com today. And I wonder now, like, how do you balance that with new technologies as well? Because I get the sense that AI and all this big data, it kind of makes everything a little bit more impersonal. And I feel like this human-centric approach is very people-driven. So kind of how do you balance these two? Or do you see AI as helping you achieve that human-centric approach?
Yeah, um, I expected that question because whenever I talk about compassion, right, people go, "Well, Jorge, what about AI?" And so let's first talk about AI and what AI allow us to do. So the first thing is I gotta say I am a strong advocate for AI. AI is is helping me within a project to in the middle actually helps me a lot with the middle of the process in a project. I mean by that is it helps me with the qualitative analysis. It helps me with the quantitative analysis. Hey, it also helped me to write some questions for the survey and all that type of stuff, right? And also helps me when I'm doing the analysis. AI will come up with some interesting um, learnings, right, or ideas. But then that is how far AI can take. AI doesn't understand my business. AI doesn't understand the emotions of my consumers. And that is when you interject. You interject here to connect that data emotionally with our consumers, right? And what that means to them. And that is the part that I'm talking about, which is human centric. AI could get to the point that can give me consumer centric learnings, but I, as a consumer insights professional, I need to take that consumer centricity into human centricity.
Okay. And what does that process look like? That's when you take it to focus groups and people test it and you see the response. Are they responding to that message?
It could be a combination. There's not one just process, but definitely AI, in a way, is helping us to be more efficient, right? Get things done faster. When that happens, the benefit for me is that now I have more time to what I call do sense making. Sense making is all about connecting the dots and connecting the dots not only between previous research, but how I know my consumers react, their emotions. So qualitative, quantitative, syndicated data. And more importantly, connecting the dots is a very unique definition for consumer insights. And it is kind of like putting a puzzle together, okay? When you haven't seen the picture. So you don't know exactly what you're putting together. And you don't know if you have all the pieces, but you're putting something together, right? Only humans can do this. AI only deals with what AI has available. But as a human being, this thinking, this sense making, trying to find the pieces to put together this puzzle, that is us. So you ask me, like, how do you do this? I really don't have a process. I do the research. I use any type of technology methodology, but all of that comes to me at the end of the day, right? So that is what, you know, I am not concerned about like losing my job to AI. In fact, I am super excited because I used to complain that I used to spend 80% of my time dealing with the project, the analysis and all of that. And I didn't have that much time to do the thinking. And if you ask any consumer insights leader, that is the biggest problem. But now that is shifting. It's shifting because of AI is helping us, do the stuff, that before used to take a lot of time. Even collecting data, right? Now we have technology that is all the time just conducting short surveys with our consumers and then collecting that data, and then analyzing it and providing it to us so that we can make sense of it.
And then you can take that and then think about it using your 20 years of experience, over 20 years of experience, apply that and make sense of it, find those connections, find the human element in it.
Yeah. So I mentioned something here of what our job should be in consumer science. Our biggest job is to find what we need to do to unlock growth. And a lot of people see the obvious or they are called to solve a problem, right? For consumer insights, people call and say, hey, I need to figure this out. This is the challenge. This is the problem that I have. Can you do some research? Help me out. And that is totally great. That is totally fine. I love that. I love those situations. But I do believe that now that AI can help me freeing up some time, my job is not only to solve problems, but my job is to find problems that people didn't know they have. That is where it's an aspirational goal for me. And I can only, again, AI can do this. Only a human being thinking, understanding the business, understanding the consumer can figure out where a problem may exist.
Yeah, that's very interesting. It's finding these opportunities, finding or creating these opportunities for growth, which is what a lot of innovation is. And I wonder, you've kind of experienced this, I imagine, how consumer insights has kind of shifted from this support role, like your first example, where they come to you with a problem, to now this driving force of innovation, bringing insights to the team and saying, this is the problem that you need to solve. Customers want this.
Yeah. So what is I am very fortunate that I have full support of the Lazy Boy leadership, and in a way that they don't see me just only about solving problems, but they are relying on consumer insights to guide strategy. And and some and they see us as a GPS that is basically pointing towards north, right? Where we need to go. Now, that is the vision. How are we going to get there? And that is a fantastic role for consumer insights to be in, right? Because you are ahead by looking at trends, by looking at consumer behavior. You're basically saying, hey, we're going north, but we may have to deviate a little bit here because we have a couple of, this is what I see happening, you know, but let's continue to move forward, or like slow down. We're starting to see consumers' sentiment about inflation. We're starting to see this, like, so that is a risk, right? So let's talk about this, right? We may change a little bit the strategy, but the vision is the same. So we're basically a GPS that is guiding the company on how to make decisions, right? In the best way to get to where we need to be.
And I guess a big part of that is making these insights actionable, which there's a lot of talk now about insights not being actionable or not leading to the product. It's more background information. And I wonder, with all of this that you've said and your experience building these insights ecosystems, what components really need to be in place to make these insights actionable across these various departments?
Yeah, that again, really good question. And insights leaders do struggle with that. Um, Number one, I will say that again, I don't fool myself in that we're building an insights function and that's it. My vision in the company at Lazy Boy is really to change people's mindsets to become more consumer slash human centric. That is my goal, and that is how I want to be measured, right? And it is the way you do this is basically by asking yourself two questions in every single meeting. It should be, the first question is this beneficial for the consumer, right? And the answer is no, it's done, move on. If the answer is yes, okay, how come? What business? I'm sorry. What consumer need are we solving for? Right? Because I assume that you will already have strategic foundational knowledge to understand that. So if the answer is yes, we're solving this consumer need, then the second question is this beneficial for the organization? And the answer could be no, because it is outside who we are, is not consistent or doesn't fit our our values, our strategy, whatever it is, then fine, it's done. But if the answer is yes, then not only is how are we going to do it, what is the investment, and you start planning. What you have successfully done in this case with those two questions is that you have identified where to play, and with the second question, how you are going to win, right? And that is a lot of work, the how you're going to win. But most importantly, is where you want to play based on who you are in the strengths of your brand. Unfortunately, most companies reverse those questions. And the first question that they ask themselves is this good for the organization? It's all about money, growing, right? And the second question, is it good for the for the consumer? If you answer the first question, you say yes, then you're going to have a bias when answering that question, is this good for the consumer? So gotta flip that, right? Once you have that, once you have a culture in the company that you're building, that the first question is this good for the company? you do research, right? One of the biggest mistakes that we have as consumer insights functions is that we do a study, and as good as it may be, then it just goes away and everybody forgets about it. I believe that once you do a study, that is step number one, and the and you need to continue to socialize. You need to democratize those insights over and over and over again if you're going to change people's minds. In order to do that, you need to have a strong um, knowledge management platform that people can come in and just access all that knowledge. But most importantly, I talk a lot about human centricity. Human centricity not only is about our consumers, it's about our team members, our all the functions that we work with. We need to have strong relations so that we can understand their business, so that we can go meet with them and help them out, right? That is how you actually make insights more actionable. You bring the human side at work and have those strong relationships that you create trust, and then you share. You're genuinely, you try to help everyone. You know, that's the best way, supporting everybody, get meet their goals.
That's very powerful, but I imagine it's not easy. A lot of these companies, as you say, they ask is it beneficial to the company first? How would you guide or recommend other insights managers in similar positions? How can leadership kind of bring that shift so that they start focusing on the humans?
Uh-huh. Yeah, no, so not easy, right? Otherwise, everybody will do it. Number one, you gotta have a culture in the company that they basically want to learn, like a growth mindset. Number two is the support of leadership that we are going to be making decisions based on the consumer. And they, when I am not in meetings, and in anybody from any function in the company goes to present to an executive, the executive has to ask, tell me about the consumer. Have you tested with consumers? What is the risk if we don't test with consumers? Is this beneficial for the consumer? And then after that, ask the other more business driven questions. And I am, again, fortunate enough that that cascades down from the top. And I got to say, we're busy. We're extremely busy. Every year, our projects you know, double and triple um, in terms of the questions that we have. And now we have to actually step back and we have to um, say no in a polite way. And we are very aggressive prioritizing where we engage within the company and the different functions based on risk, based on bigger decisions, right? So that is what happens. And when you create trust, you have strong relationships, and you gotta show some wins at the beginning, right? When you start. I have been 3 years with Lazy Boy. I was actually the first year. I look back and I say, "Oh my God, I wanted to accomplish more." But then after 3 years, I look back and I go, "Oh my God, this has been fantastic." And I'm just not talking about the projects that we have done, but it is about how people in the organization are having different conversations in meetings, which is about the consumer and what we know about the consumer.
That sounds like a great environment to work in. It really matches with you, yeah. And you mentioned the future, and we've spoken about AI as well. And I kind of wonder, like looking forward, what trends do you see shaping the future of consumer insights? How is Lazy Boy kind of planning ahead? What are you looking at?
One of the things that for consumer sites is very important. You have to embrace AI. You have to embrace new technology. You have to be open to take risks. And I mentioned this to my team sometimes, and I said, "Hey, I want to help you out, and we can do this research." Now, I have never used this methodology, so we are going to hold hands, and we're going to do this. If this works, this is going to put us ahead, and we're gonna do it faster. We're gonna do it better. We're gonna have uh, better decisions, right? Better answers for you. And So I will say that is one thing that people need to change their minds um, in terms of conducting research. I think that in terms of what is coming in the future is you have to develop a strategic and critical mindset to connect the dots, because AI is going to be able to analyze faster than what we expect, and you have to be able to connect those dots, what we were talking right at the beginning. And 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 if you are a researcher that only likes to be heads down doing the analysis, just be aware that AI will be able to do it a lot faster and perhaps even better, right? So our role is moving towards a more strategic role within organizations. Our role will point where true north is, and provide direction. That is the role that now AI and new technology and how we collect data is going to allow us to do, right? And if we don't take advantage of that, then competition is going to do it better than you. So it's going to come down to people, consumer science, becoming not only excellent researchers to understand analysis, it also they are going to become more strategic innovators, right? And in order to survive, we're going to be able to not only see the big picture. Every leader, sees the big picture. We're going to have to see the big picture faster than everybody else, not only with technology, but also with consumer trends.
But then at the same time, and I'm all for AI as well. I use AI in my work. I think it's a very powerful tool and it's growing every day. But at the same time, um, I wonder what your approach is to gathering insights as well. Like, do you still feel like you want to have those one-on-one conversations or participate in that process with the consumer? Because I fear that if we put too much behind technology and you only get the results and then you start connecting the dots, you've abstracted yourself almost from the consumer at the bottom. There's a fear of going too far.
Absolutely, yes. So I was just mentioning how our role is going to change. AI is going to help us, is a stepping stone. Basically, that is what it is, to become more efficient and more effective on analysis. But at the end of the day, it's going to be about making sense of the data and connecting that data to emotions of our consumers. Um, and the only way that you can do that is by having one-on-one conversations with consumers that go deep. Let me just say it also that, so to give you an example, and we did a lot of analysis, and we decided then after that, in using AI and all of that, we conducted some ethnographies, people's at home. So, and it was basically on the computer, right? It kind of like what we're doing now is a virtual ethnography. And this said everything to me. We were talking to this older couple, and they could go anywhere in the house to sit down and talk to us. And what they did is they show us where they sit down to watch television, read, listen to music, and they have each one a recliner right next to each other, right? In the back a little bit, just imagine an older lamp. People were in their 70s, and they were holding hands when they were sitting on the recliner, right? Their feet up, reclining back, but they were still holding hands and talking to us. And they told us that for the last 20 years, that is what they do every day, every evening. They sit down there, they hold hands, and they watch TV. Can you imagine? That is powerful. And that is what I said. We truly understood what comfort meant when we say, this is us time.
And I wonder, like, one last question. So we were talking about the future in terms of our roles gathering consumer insights, but I wonder if you're foreseeing any changes in the consumers themselves, in their expectations, their needs evolving. especially with technology and connectivity. I mean, now with Netflix, people are watching their own shows on their computer. So maybe that us time is eroding a little bit. Everyone's on their own device. I wonder how that's informing your strategies moving forward.
Well, I what I think also is really going to change quite a bit is I still believe that doing deep dives, such as segmentations, jobs to be done, those studies that go deep, right, a mile deep, are important. Um, I They are going to be done less and less frequently. And what is going to happen is that we are going to have shorter surveys that are more frequent, and we collect behavior on an ongoing basis. And this is driven also because consumers' attention span has diminished dramatically. You can. I remember the days where you actually could have a 40-minute survey, and nowadays it's like, oh my god, are you are you nuts? 40 minutes? Yeah,
Yeah.
but we used to do that, right? And those type of surveys are just like taking a picture one moment in time. That is not true life anymore, right? Life is happening every day, and that is what we need to do to collect data, and that is how AI is going to be able to help us. Just imagine getting your phone, like maybe by the end of the day or during the day, 2 or 3 questions that are top of mind that you can answer.
And when you can connect it to the experience as well, no? At different times of the day, at the end of the day, he sat down on the recliner. That's when the survey goes out.
Well, so we have the technology now. I haven't done this yet, but I'm just waiting for the right time. So there is this technology now that when you sit down on your recliner, that can activate a survey to your phone. And that at that moment you sit down and that is like, oh, you got a message. Oh yeah, is survey from Lazy Boy, right? Say, hey, how was your day? Any challenges? What is the main reason that you are taking a break? Are you watching TV? Are you watching food? So we will be able to know all of that, right? Are you by yourself or is there anybody else at home? Help us understand behavior and the motivation to sit down, right? And now imagine doing this like 500 people like every week. And that's how I believe it's going to change in the future for us to not only understand like what is happening, um, but what is driving motivation, how well you're connected to the brand, and what else is going on in with my target, right?
That was amazing. There was so much there. Normally at the end, I ask, is there any more advice you'd like to give? But there was so much advice there that I'm going to have to rewatch this episode again just to unpack it all. Thank you so much, Jorge, for joining us today. That was an amazing episode of Innovation Impossible. I'm sure the audience is going to love it.
Thank you so much, Dan. It's like I said, it's exciting conversation. It's always great to talk about um, the future of insights. But more for me is the the role that insights leaders should play in this new world, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Jorge. Have a great
All
day.
right.
Bye
Take
bye.
care. All right. Bye bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today for another Innovation Impossible story. I hope you enjoyed the insights and all the practical advice as much as I did. Please give us a like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. We're just starting out, and like innovating, this feels impossible. And head on over to YouTube and let us know if anything resonated with you or if you completely disagreed with anything, and we can spark some healthy debate into the world of innovation and insights. Thanks again to our sponsor, prelaunch.com, our guests for joining, and you for listening today. And see you again in a couple of weeks.